Hey there, and welcome back to Local Marketing Secrets. I'm your host, Danny Leibrandt. In this episode, we're going to uncover new local SEO data for home services with Andrew Shotland. Now, if you don't already know Andrew, he's the CEO of Local SEO Guide, which does local SEO consulting for multi-location businesses and started it over 18 years ago at this point. They've worked with some of the biggest companies in the space, such as Angie's List, HomeAdvisor, Local.com, Bing Maps, Thumbtack, and many more. Andrew is also a board member and the vice president for Bay Area Search, which is an SEO community in San Francisco. Additionally, he is quoted in major publications such as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and TechCrunch for his expertise in search marketing. And finally, Andrew has recently launched a new tool called SERP Summary, which has found a ton of interesting data for home service search results and is what we're going to be diving into on this podcast. So I'm super excited for this episode and can't wait to learn from Andrew. By the way, this is actually his second time on the podcast, so make sure to watch our first one after this. Now, without further ado, thanks for coming on the show, Andrew.
Thank you for having me, Danny, and hello, Local Marketing Secrets viewers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. Am I quoted in the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, I just recently became board member of State of Search, which used to be known as the Dallas-Fort Worth SEM Marketing Association. So add that to your intro next time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, next time you're on. Cool, awesome. So yeah, we're going to be talking all about SERP Summary today. So yeah, let's kind of learn about what SERP Summary is. Can you tell me about kind of why you started it, when you started it, and what exactly it is?
All right, so Moz, which hopefully you all have heard of, many years ago started this thing called Moz Cast, which they called an SEO weather report, which basically tracked 10,000 keywords or SERPs, like the search engine result pages, and how volatile they are. And so if you went to Moz Cast on any day, you'd see like, oh, they say it's hot, like it's up, or it's cold, it's down, and they gave it like degrees and stuff like that. It was really fun. And it was a great marketing tool for Moz because people would always, whenever there was a Google update, oh, Mozcast says it's hot, right? Whatever that. And the problem I always had with Mozcast, not the problem, the challenge I always had with Mozcast was, okay, so what do I do with that data? Like, so what? It's hot. What does that mean? Okay, I'll check my clients and see what's going on. And so we thought, hey, I wonder if we could make a slightly more useful SEO weather report tool. And there's a bunch of these out there. A lot of people built them. And we had all this data from a partner called Traject that we used to get rank tracking data from. And we had just done a big project in home services where we had built out a whole taxonomy for them, like hundreds of thousands of keywords. And so I'm like, hey, I bet we could get all the rankings data, all the SERP data for all these keywords in different markets and have a much more robust weather report. And not only show, hey, it's hot or cold, but who went up and down, and what are the SERP features? For those of you who are SEO geeks, a SERP feature is, hey, is it showing video in the results? Is it showing a local pack in the results? And these things go up and down all the time. And so I thought, oh, wow, we could start to use this to get, so whenever there's a Google update, we could quickly go and look at this thing and get an initial sense of who's winning and losing. And the reason why I thought this might be interesting is that if you go and use a tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs or any of these big data SEO tools, you can look at a keyword level at a search result and be like, okay, who went up this week? And so let's just take pest control near me as a query. Mm-hmm. Okay, for pest control near me or pest control in Pleasanton, which is where I live, I can see that site A went up and site B went down in SEMrush. I can kind of see that. It's not very helpful except for that keyword. What I really want to know is what happened across the whole entire topic of pest control? Because as hopefully your audience knows, it's not one keyword that breaks your SEO. Mm-hmm. It's like thousands or hundreds, sometimes smaller, or maybe even millions. And so it's helpful to see what URLs and domains are growing across a wide variety of keywords in this topic. And then you can go, okay, how do I do what they're doing? Because a lot of SEO is basically reverse engineering your competition that's winning and going, okay, how do I outdo them? I do the same thing, but outdo them. So anyhow, I said, hey, let's build this thing. And my tech team was like, oh yeah, it'll take 30 days. And a year later, here it is.
That's how it goes.
Unfortunately, that's how it goes. So we have this thing. and it's up. And we launched it about a month and a half ago, maybe. And I'm using it now all the time on our clients. It's not like it's like God's gift to SEO tools, but it's like whenever we're doing the strategy for a home services client, we're working on a roofing company this week. And I'm like, oh, let's see which roofers are winning over the last 3 weeks. And we can see, because it only looks at 5 cities right now. So we can see like across in these 5 cities, here's like the local sites that are winning. And so we've got to go, why are they winning? What's it is about them? And so I like it. It's a cool little tool.
What are the 5 cities that are being tracked and why choose them?
God, New York, Los Angeles, I think Houston, Dallas, and Seattle.
I think Chicago's on there, no?
Chicago, maybe, yeah.
Let's go. I'm in Chicago.
Okay, so yeah, like we just picked 5 big cities and like, okay, let's just do maybe the top 5 cities. I don't remember. My team was just like, I was like, we need to do the top 100 cities in the country. And they're like, that's so much damn data. Like, no.
Okay. And then in particular, how are you using the tool? So you said you're using it quite often. When you're using it, what are you doing and what are you looking for?
All right. How about I do a little screen share?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So let's go here. Screen, SERP Summary, the useful Google algorithm tool. Can you see that, Dan?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the aggregation view, meaning all the data we have. We started tracking this data a long time ago, even before September 2024, but it officially starts at September 2024. I'm not sure if we can go back any farther in this date clicker, but the first thing we see is the volatility score. And this is the volatility score over the whole time. And that just means don't even worry about it. It's like, is it hot or cold thing? And basically this is the average over the whole time. Google SERP ownership is we thought this was an interesting thing to show. That's this line right here. And what that means is any result on page 1 of Google that links to google.com is how we improve it. So basically what this means is when everyone's like, oh, Google's taking over these results with its own stuff all the time, this kind of actually says in home services that actually is not the case. You can see starting in September of last year, it was 44.61%. It's now only 36.88%.
Interesting.
Now this is misleading. We don't have this data in here yet because as an example, Google could have expanded the size of their ads and pushed everything down, and this wouldn't detect that. So then they could have even taken away an ad and pushed everything still down, and it would sound like Google's SERP ownership is going down. So take this a little bit with a grain of salt, but it's just like we thought, oh, we have the data, it's interesting. And this.
I'm sorry. Could you just go more in depth on that? I'm not sure I fully comprehended. So you're saying that 38%. What is that exactly?
Okay, so we look at we get all the results from page 1 of Google for every keyword we're tracking. We then look at it and go, what percent of these are linking to google.com? And those are what we call Google SERP ownership, meaning Google owns the real estate. You can't rank there, right?
Okay, so that'd be like Google Business Profile, Google Ads, those kind of places. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But as I said, we can't detect if Google Ads takes up more space. We can actually, we just don't have it in here. We can't detect if it's taking up more space. And so it looks like Google SERP ownership is going down when in fact it may be increasing because Google's owning more visual real estate, but it may not be owning the number of links, any more number of links on the page, if that makes sense.
Okay, interesting.
And so you can actually like use the date picker and say, hey, I just want to see the last 2 weeks or the last 7 days. It updates every week. On Monday, the data updates. I believe Tuesday night is when the actual charts update. And you can break it down by category. So we have can't remember how many categories we have. I want to say 64 categories or something. So you can see these are all home services. So garage door installation, gardening, etc. And then here's the volatility chart. So this is like the traditional Moz Cast or Google Weather Report thing. Red is, very volatile. This is the most volatile. So the week of January 27th was the most volatile we had seen in the whole time we've been tracking it.
Is there any reason for that?
Google made a lot of changes, right? So this is an example of how we could look at the data right after this week and see how it changed and start to get an idea of, well, what happened in these search results. And I'll do that in a second, show you how it works. But so this is really just more of a fun graph to look at and go, okay, like you're really looking for these big changes and the trend. And this is where I think it starts to get pretty useful. These are the SERP features. So all the different things that Traject tracks in the search results and their presence across these it's 100,000 search results we're tracking right now. 100,000 keywords, I guess, is technically what it is. It's more search results because it's the same keyword in different cities. So maybe 500,000 search results. So I'll just isolate one thing to show you how it works. So inline videos. What this is showing is starting in October, the presence of inline videos in these search results went up from whatever that is, 26% of the search to 40%. So that means 40% now of all search results in all these keywords show videos. And so this is a pretty good indicator that maybe you need to incorporate video into your SEO strategy. And you can do that with any of these things. Some of these are kind of stupid, like scholarly articles. It's just the data we get, so you don't really need it. But or film info, like probably in home services, not a lot of film info. But you can see, as an example, local service ads. So this was kind of interesting. Was local service ads tanked in December, and we're like, why did local service ads tank? And because that's a big part of Google's business. And what we saw was local maps, and there's two. Let's see. Oh, this isn't quite the data that I thought, but anyhow, basically what we saw happen was various local pack results started to take over, and they just moved the LSAs into the map packs. Is what happened. So you can get all sorts of data like that. And let's just see what ads look like. This is where I was referring to. Is you can see the Google Ads pack tanked, and this is when local results went up.
But was there a specific update that made that happen?
I believe this was that really volatile week, or right before that really volatile. It's the week before the volatile week. So we're not. And this, by the way, this data you have to again trust but verify, because we're just getting it from someone who's scraping Google. So it may change like the second after they scrape it, but it should give you like an indication over time, like, oh, we're getting similar data. So anyhow, this is just we think they moved the ad units into the maps, and which makes sense. It's a better ad unit than having those two things on top, right? Now this is where I spend most of my time. So this chart shows you the top U.S. home service domains. So across all the data, it shows which URLs or which domains show up most often. And as you can see, Reddit and Quora are the two most popular domains. Which, if your viewers have been paying attention the last year, they're like, shouldn't be very surprised, right? So for those of you who haven't, like, Reddit and Quora and sites like these have been growing in their presence in Google over the last year and a half, pretty much. And for people that aren't familiar, because I'm sure there's like a good amount of local business owners and kind of people adjacent to that are listening. What has been going on in the past year and a half, and why are Reddit and Quora particularly doing so well recently? So there's a lot of theories. Google has said that they believe personal experience is like a key thing that people want and they see a lot of demand for people searching keywords plus Reddit. So as an example, best lawn fertilizer, Reddit, right? And there'll be a whole discussion about, hey, what's the best lawn fertilizer? And so there's also a theory that, so we know Google did a deal with Reddit to train their AI data on Reddit. Because Reddit has all these natural conversations, and AI needs like natural language conversations to get really smart. And so we think that combination of things increased Google wanting to put it in front, and not just Reddit. So one of the cool things, you can't see this on this tool, but since I have access to the database, every week I have my team run a SQL query, a database query, and send me interesting data. And we could see that every domain that had the word forum in it grew at like 1,000% over the last year. Yeah.
What?
But it makes sense. Google wants to elevate those domains. One, because they claim they think it's helpful. Whether it is or not, who knows? But I think two is they want people in those sites interacting so they can crawl it and train their AI.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what's going on. I personally find these sites useful. At first, I was kind of like a cranky old man, get off my lawn kind of thing, and I was like, ah, who wants this junk? And then I was like, every time I had a problem, like I had a problem with my electric car, I had to like I don't know, change the battery or something, and I had to change the headlight bulb. That's right. And Reddit had a great little thing on here's the right thing to do and blah blah blah. And so so I find these things kind of useful.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that with myself actually. I didn't even really realize that until you mentioned it here. But for a lot of random searches that I have, I might put Reddit in the search as well, because I want to see what people are saying versus, there's just some like mainstream article now they're trying to push their product.
Yeah.
So Reddit actually is a great source. But then what about Quora? I'm surprised they're so big.
It's the same. It's similar to Reddit, same kind of stuff.
But are people doing that same search where? Maybe it's like that lawn fertilizer Quora. I feel like no one uses Quora.
Right. So this is the problem with being a marketer, is you have to take your head out of your own head.
Yeah.
Or whatever the right word is. Like sure, you don't use it, but doesn't mean like a billion other people use it. Right?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Some other interesting data in this. So we can see Angie.com is the most popular quote unquote brand in here. Home Depot is the most popular retailer. Makes sense. You can see Yelp is big. This one I found really interesting was Forbes was one of the top 10. So for your viewers who are not following every search story, Forbes has no business being a top 10 home services company, but their SEO team is excellent. And excellence. Well, anyhow, their SEO team is excellent. So Forbes several years ago sold off the SEO part of Forbes.com, and another company is basically just creating articles on everything and riding on what we call their site reputation. Meaning Forbes.com is such an old, strong domain, it can rank for pretty much anything in Google if you put content on it. And so over this last several years, they've been building like best landscapers in this city type stuff. And shocker, it works. Up until someone outed them or made a big stink about it and got very seen in all over social media and on the journals and stuff like that. And then Forbes got knocked down through something called the site reputation abuse algorithm or update. That said, I believe they cleaned up their act and they're coming back. So I don't know. I haven't looked in the last couple of weeks to see how they're doing, but over the last year, they've been one of the most popular. So and then what's cool is I can filter this just by the last 2 weeks, and I can kind of start to see, oh well, who's the most popular now, right? Versus over time. And then this is the real killer data. So this is the winners and losers over the time period. So as you can see, Reddit biggest winner, and this is true across every category, not just home services. Reddit's the fastest growing website on the planet over the last year. Quora as well. Check a Trade, another like, hey, I'll find you a contractor site. Angie, blah blah blah. NerdWallet is a good one. Just Answer is another one that's like kind of interesting. It's a big, it's kind of a question and answer type thing. What's interesting is a UK site is showing up here. When we first got this data, we had a bunch of UK, Australian, and Indian sites, and I was like, this sucks. This is not right. You got to clean this stuff out. And then we realized, no, this is the case. Like Google showing the wrong countries And then I thought through, and I was like, over the last decade, every time I was looking up something for gardening. Usually I get to buy something, an e-commerce site. Almost always the top results were UK sites.
Interesting.
I have no idea why. And then I was like, oh yeah, Google sucks. It's like, that's why. And then these are the biggest losers over the time period. So you can see
wow.
Forbes is the biggest loser, Architecture Digest, Amazon, MarketWatch, Yelp, BobVila.com, ThisOldHouse.com, USA Today, Today's Homeowner. So you get a lot of high level data, and then it's not so this is kind of fun to look at the category, the like topic level, or whatever we call this, the industry level, market level.
Mm-hmm.
But what really gets cool is when you go back up here and you go, okay, I want to see it for a category. And so I already done it, so we don't have to wait for it to load. It loads pretty quickly, but it's a lot of data, so it can take some time. This is now just pest control over the last year.
It didn't switch your screen over.
Oh, I'm sorry. Always happens. Google screen sharing. Okay. So
okay, there we go. Yeah.
So this is oops. This is a little sensitive, this little slider. So this is pest control. Oops. It's over here. Looks like we lost a little data in December. Happens sometimes. And so you can see what's going on in pest control. And again, we can see, okay, I mean, I already know the SERP feature trends are very similar across all these categories right now. There's not a big difference. So, but we can look at who's big in pest control, and we can see the usual suspects, but then we see Orkin and Terminix, right? And Wikipedia and the EPA.gov. Haha, not for long. I bet if we look at the last 2 weeks, that thing is tanked, right? Because they should probably shut the site down. And then we can look at the big winners. So Quora is the biggest winner for pest control.
Wow.
So this would be, for your viewers, this would be an excuse to go to a tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever you're using, Systrix or whatever, and pop in Quora's domain and start filtering it by pest control queries and see what Quora is ranking for. And let's just actually go right now. I'm not going to go in a tool, but we'll just do Quora pest control. So what is an experience with pest control you will never forget? Is pest control a hard job? Is it worth this seems like a good one. Is it worth spending money on your pest control services? And so if we thought this is probably best for a national brand, because these aren't local searches per se. But if I were a let's say Terminix, I had a social media person, I might want them to pop in here and sort of put their point of view on here, because this thing is showing up. This thing is probably getting thousands of views a week. And so that's a kind of a quick way you can use this tool. What I really like is looking at the local guys. You have to have a little bit of a trained eye to see the local guys, because we don't break out. We should actually say, oh, this, as an example, Full Scope Pest Control. I'm guessing Full Scope Pest Control is a local pest control company in one of the markets we're tracking. And so this is where a local guy could use this data and go, okay, let's just see where these guys are. Location.
It hasn't, the screen didn't switch over. There we go.
I can't wait for I have a chip in my head and it just knows I've done this. So this is in Texas. So this is probably like our Dallas or Houston
okay.
data. And so I would now be all over this guy's SEO and trying to figure out what he's doing or she's doing or they're doing. And be like, okay, what can I do that's similar to them? Because for some reason, now this is a thing we've seen with this data is sometimes we get local guys that rank really well outside their market for content queries, like what's the best grass seed or something. And that's kind of our point of view on that type of content is it's mostly useless because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get traffic from outside your market. And what do you care? And so Google's so sometimes Google's elevating these things for national queries that aren't so helpful. It's great if someone in your market finds it. So it's not bad to rank for it, but it's not something we'd actively shoot for. So you have to be careful when you look at these things and be like, are they ranking better locally or are they just ranking better for national queries that don't have that aren't going to convert, I guess is the way I put it.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then you can look at it and see who lost. And again, Forbes was the big loser in here, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Do My Own, CBS News, DIY, Pest Control, Architectural Digest. And again, if you've lost traffic, you can look at these sites and go, okay, what's the same pattern? Like, how do we I don't know if you can detect why Home Depot lost traffic. Like, my guess is just Google decided to de-emphasize them. But again, if you look at these local sites, like I'm guessing ngpest.com is a local site, and I might want to see what are they doing. And then, like I said, like to me, the real useful part, what gets really useful is when you narrow the dates. So this is over the last, what did I say? This is since February 21st. This is pest control since February 21st. And we could then go see, okay, who's the top and then who lost. And this is really where I think this gets truly useful, is if there's a Google update and everyone tanked, I want to see who tanked and I want to see who went up and try to kind of go, okay, how does this apply to me in real time? And so I don't remember, give me 2 seconds. So the big update, the big volatile update was 127. So if we go, let's just go back here.
Oh, it looks like yours. Okay, there we go.
Step. We're going here. So I'm going to go 127 to now to let's just go here. We'll go 2 weeks out. And now when that really volatile update happened, I can now see what if a client's like, something happened, right? I'll be okay, what happened? Well, first of all, nothing really changed too much in the SERP features except shopping graphs went up a bit. You can kind of see, so maybe that's something you could, like, shopping graphs might be pushing some content down. Shopping graphs are these like popular product grids and things like that. So if you're searching for, I don't know, best lawnmower, it'd be like a row of lawnmowers. And then we can go here and say who won. Well, this old house cranked up. And so that says to me, Google is like tweaking its content dials, because this old house is mostly content. But this old house, I believe, also has find a contractor stuff. So you'd want to look at this old house and go, okay, is it it's find a contractor stuff, or is it this content that went up, or both? We could see, full scope pest control got hammered. So what are they doing? My guess is they're doing either AI content or crappy link building or aggressive link building. Lake Manor, this is definitely a local one. Lake Manor, Lake Norman Pest.com. So I'd want to look at them. And that's kind of how we use the tool. I've been threatening to do it. Right now you can sign up to get updates. I haven't sent out an update yet. I've been so busy. But basically my goal is every Wednesday to send out a little data update. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll start doing that. And really, I don't want to bury people's inboxes. I just want to be like, hey, here's like 2 things we noticed over the last week. You may want to look at this. And I think it's so funny. My daughter, who's a senior in high school, she has something called March term, which is like an internship term. She has to get an internship. So she's interning for us this month. And she's now basically building out the keyword set for another vertical. I think we're going to do healthcare as the next.
Okay.
Healthcare, automotive, or financial services. Can't decide which one. So
nice.
Whichever one will drive her crazy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to dive a little bit more into Reddit and Quora. So I'd like to make this practical for my audience and potentially the local marketers that are helping the local businesses, is that for a normal local business, let's say, maybe they're at, I don't know, let's say $1 million a year. Does it make sense to look into working on things like Reddit and Quora? Like, are there local specific queries there that they should be targeting and answering in there? Or are there really no local queries there? That it's more so just something they have to be aware of, that Reddit and Quora are taking up a good amount of search traffic.
I see them showing up for local queries all the time. So a good example, I bet if you type best restaurants in my city, you'll see a huge Reddit thread on people saying why, and it's probably 5 years old, right? But Google shows it. So I'd say this is like everything else in SEO, you have to look at the data and decide, is there enough, do we think there's enough traffic or opportunity there? But my gut reaction is anytime anyone says that is, yeah, there is, because we know, you can see like it's all everywhere. In fact, let's just do, I don't know if this will work. I may, have egg on my face, but let's just do best landscapers near me. Let's just see if there's a Yelp thing. Oh, here we go. Discussions and forums.
Okay.
Right. So, and this is, so I'm not, San Jose is a little far away from me, about 30 minutes. But if they had a Pleasanton thing, my guess is they would be showing a Pleasanton thing.
Okay.
So, so data point of one, yeah, it's everywhere. Right? It works. Like, and with Reddit and probably Quora too, and all these other things, you have to be careful because you don't want to be perceived as spamming these communities. You can get bounced out of them pretty quickly. That said, we see a ton of people spamming these things. And so I'd say for your average small business owner, it's not worth it to spend too much time on this stuff unless you see it's a really good search query and you think you can add value to the conversation and not just be like, hey, hire me. So as an example, let's stick with landscaping for now. Hey, actually, let's do pest control because I know you've got a lot of pest control guys. And I'm just remembering several years ago, the county mosquito abatement guys came over to my house because we have a hot tub, and they were inspecting all still standing bodies of water to make sure there weren't mosquitoes or whatever. And so I could see that somehow becoming a thread on Reddit. Hey, what's up with this mosquito abatement in Allegheny County? And so if I were in the pest control, I might be like, let me go in and explain what they're doing and why. And then say, oh, if anyone ever has any questions about mosquito stuff or this and that, feel free to hit me up. Always happy to chat, right? We once worked with a plastic surgeon who there's a site like this called Real Self. That's a community for plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, or whatever it's called. And he said most of his business came from him answering questions about how long it takes to recover from a nose job.
Really?
Because it's the most common question. It's the most common procedure, most common question. And he said he just would spend, he was on a thread and he would always chime in. And he was in London, I believe. And so inevitably someone in the UK would see it and be like, oh, I got to talk to this guy, right? He's like, he's the expert. So, so I don't know that it's your number one thing you can do, but this is where we're all struggling. Even like people who do this for a living is, how do you know it's worth spending time on this?
Yeah.
Right? And the only way to know is to test it. And so again, so for marketers, you should be allotting a few hours a month of testing. Like here's an example. We have a B2B client that they do learning management systems, whatever that is. And if you search like best SCORM authoring tools, that's the thing, SCORM authoring tools, you'll see a grid of logos in Google. Like, hey, these are the best SCORM authoring tools. And they're not in it. And they're a SCORM authoring tool. And I don't know how to get them in it, but I have to figure that out because I want to know.
Yeah.
And so we told them this month we're going to spend like 5 hours of their time trying to figure that out. And because I want to know, and I think it's worth them figuring it out. I think I know how to do it. I don't need 5 hours, but we want to run a bunch of tests for them. And so so I'm not saying like your average home services guy needs to spend their time doing that. It's just like it's so fragmented, and people used to say Google's changing all the time. It must be so hard. And I'd be like, no, it's not. It's not changing all the time. The last year, it's changing all the time. It's so hard.
Dang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something kind of adjacent to what we're talking about regarding the Quora and Reddit stuff. I've heard a good amount of pest control guys seeing success answering questions in local groups. So it might be a Facebook group in their city because, obviously Facebook's still a huge platform and a lot of people are using the groups and they want somewhere that they can trust. It's not like some random website, again, like pushing some random service, like, some random pest control company in the area. But I've seen that work as well. And that I think that's kind of the meta point here is that people want real responses from real people. It should be trustworthy. It should be, maybe someone in their community. It should be kind of have a local feel, ideally someone that they know. So that's something to consider as well, is that people are ultimately just looking for a trustworthy person to listen to regarding the topic that's in their area.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Like we just got a quote. My wife and I just got a quote for long-term health insurance. Like, what a drag. And so some guy was like, here's all the details, and we're like, okay, it sounded like someone trying to explain SEO to a small business who doesn't know SEO.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, right now I'm probably gonna tonight go all over Reddit and be like, okay, is this a scam? Right? Like, how does it work? Blah blah blah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Another segment that I'd like to do is kind of a rapid fire FAQ. So if you're down for it, Andrew, we'll hit on 5 or so questions and you can spend a minute answering each one.
Let's do it.
Sounds good. All right. So the first one I've got for you is, what is the biggest misconception about local SEO today?
The biggest misconception, rapid fire. God, I'm I don't have. I'm stumped. What is the biggest misconception? That you don't have to do it. I don't know. Like it's. I honestly have no idea what the biggest misconception is. I'm trying to think through conversations we had in client. Well, the biggest misconception is that it's pay-per-click. Honestly, people still confuse SEO and pay-per-click. And so that especially with small businesses, we have that conversation a lot. In fact, we had someone we've been working with for 6 months asked if we had her Facebook login, and I was like, "We're not doing Facebook for you." But
no, that's why I love the local business space, honestly, because before I was in helping like e-commerce brands and agencies, and all these guys are already super familiar with digital marketing, but local businesses, these are the people that actually need the help with marketing. So yeah, glad to answer that.
Here's maybe this is the misconception, is that it's all smoke and mirrors. And I think, especially with small businesses, when we work with them, they've typically worked with another consultant that was very hand wavy. They don't know what they're doing. They're not very transparent. They're trying risky techniques sometimes, or not trying at all. And part of that is because most of these guys have small budgets, and so the consultant can't afford to spend much time or effort on these things, or they don't know what they're buying, or they weren't straight with them at the front, meaning like, hey man, if you're going to spend $750 a month, I know that's a lot of money for you, but there's stuff you could do, but not a lot, right?
Yeah.
Think about what you need to make it worth your while to get out of bed every day, right? It's more than $750.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah. Awesome. All right, the next one I've got for you is, really, we've actually already talked about this, but one surprising thing that SERP Summary has revealed, kind of recently in the past few months.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's all these international results in here, that Reddit and Quora dominate this category, that Forbes got crushed, that actually I like the inline videos one. I thought was one of my favorite ones when I saw that growing. I was like, because we've been trying to get clients to do more video, but everyone thinks video is impossible because it's like, oh, you need a crew and a camera and you need the script and we did the dumbest, simplest video with a B2B client and got them ranked on page 1 for like a really good term.
Wow.
Because the video matched the content. It wasn't particularly competitive. And we emailed like everybody as soon as it was up. Hey, can you watch this thing all the way through? And so it got a lot more views than this very dry category should get. Home services is going to be a little trickier because there's a ton of DIY videos out there.
Yeah.
Right? But it makes sense. Like if you don't have a video strategy in home services, I think you're way behind.
Yeah, no, that's a great affirmation because I just recently started going all in on video for clients. That's great to hear. Next one I've got for you is again, this is kind of a tough one. If you could fix one thing about the Google algorithm, what would it be?
Oh, it should rank me number one for everything I want. Number one thing. I think so this is going to get a little technical, but there's several technical things that happen to sites that are impossible for us to fix. Meaning, I'll give you an example. We worked with like a yellow page company in Australia, and let's say they had a page called Electricians in Sydney. They also had a page called Escorts in Sydney. And their Google would show their Escorts in Sydney page for electricians in Sydney queries. And I am 99.9% sure there's nothing we could do about it. We had to wait till Google could fix that thing. And so, and this is like an impossible ask. So there are all these basic algorithmic things that Google unleashes every time it updates, and it breaks stuff. And so I wish we could, all the obvious stupid things, I wish we could just push a button and Google be, okay, we trust you, we're fixing that. But
yeah,
that'll never happen.
Yeah, no, that's the unfortunate reality. Like I'm I'm familiar with a lot of Google Business Profile product experts, like I'm sure you are, and they're talking to the people at Google saying, hey, why hasn't this been done? Like the using a keyword in your business name for Google Business Profile. I mean, that's been around forever, and everyone's saying like, this probably shouldn't be a thing, even though it's still a thing. So, I guess if we could have trusted experts that can escalate issues and get them solved immediately, that'd be great.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. All right, the next one I've got for you is actually. Oh yeah, okay. So the last one I've got for you is your favorite SEO tool besides SERP Summary here.
Favorite SEO tool? Well, I'll give you two. I think the third-party tool we use the most is probably SEMrush or Ahrefs, ahrefs.com, or just ahref.com. They're pretty similar. They just have slightly different interfaces, different approach, but it's the same kind of thing, like pop in a website, a keyword, and get a bunch of Google data. Those are probably where we spend the most time. But we've built our own tool called Squirrel that is a Slack bot that is connected to Google Business Profile and Google Search Console. And you can ask it things like, hey, can tell me how many are these pages indexed? We just launched these 10 new pages. Tell me when they're indexed, or alert me when Google automatically updates my Google Business Profiles. So that's a pretty useful little tool for our workflows. And we're now working on, the problem is it's in Slack, so it's kind of clunky and not fun to use. So now we're working on putting in an AI layer over it, so you can just query it in natural language. So I think that'll be my favorite little SEO.
Interesting. And is that public, or is that just on your? Okay.
We'll make it public when it's finished. So we're kind of trying to. Anyhow, it's just yet another thing that might take 30 days, might take 30 years to build.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a really free, easy thing that your viewers might like. Years ago, we created a Chrome extension called Nap Hunter, NAP Hunter. So if you search Nap Hunter in Google, you'll see the Chrome store link. All it does is you enter in your business name, your address, your phone number, and it'll run a bunch of Google queries in tabs and show you all the results for those things. And the reason why it's useful is you can find, like, if you have an old phone number, you can just pop it in there and be like, oh, I need to update that phone number, or an old address, or Anyhow, it's really quick and easy to find like weird NAP, name, address, phone number data.
Yeah.
And I believe it has about it. We stopped supporting it for a long time. So it used to have about 5,000 users a month on it. Now it has about 1,000. We just relaunched it last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I don't think I've heard of that. I don't think you mentioned that on our last podcast. That's a good little tidbit as well.
Here, I'll put it in the chat so you can have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put that in the description of the YouTube video. And then the last section that I'd like to cover on this podcast, due to its name, Local Marketing Secrets, is, Andrew, what is your local marketing secret? What are you doing different than other local marketers? You've been in the game for almost 20 years now, or actually technically more than 20 years. What are you doing? What's your secret? How are you beating competitors?
How are we beating competitors? Well, it's a secret. How are we beating competitors? I'll try to give you guys, let's think of one good tactic that you can steal from me. Well, we know interactions with your Google business profile really dramatically affect your rankings in the local pack. What do I mean by that? So we had an attorney in the Bay Area who hired us. They had they said, "Oh, our local rankings are tanking. We need help." And let's say we signed the contract on a Wednesday. On a Friday, he's like, "What did you guys do? My rankings are back." And I was like, "Nothing. I haven't even like, I don't think I've sent you an invoice yet, right?" And I said, "Oh, well, what did you do anything?" He's like, "No, the only thing we've done is we put up a help wanted ad." And I thought about it for a second, and then I looked at his data. I'm like, "Oh, wow. He put up a help wanted ad in his city. It's probably a lot of people looking for jobs. So they probably went to Google, searched his business name, and clicked on his local pack, his Google business profile. And there probably were enough. I'm guessing he got like these days when you put up a open job, like you get 500 applications. So I'm guessing these are all local people because it had to be in his office. And he was like, it totally worked. So my secret is, for now at least, is even if you don't have a job opening, post a job opening and make it like you have to be in the office and you have to be local. And you will get a lot of people clicking on you, and it's one of the stupid things the way Google's algorithm works. By the way, you can do the same thing with getting reviews, having events. So we had a client who had an event where they had like 100 people go to their office, and the next day their rankings were way up, and we're like,
wow,
what happened? And as best we could figure out, half the people probably did like a Google Maps thing, like how do I get this thing, and drove to them, which is probably abnormal. And Google's like, well, these guys are really popular.
Dang.
In fact, I've been meaning to do this study. Is in theory, if a restaurant is popular on DoorDash, it should be ranked better in Google because all the DoorDash drivers are going to that restaurant, right? Right. So anyhow, there's your little secrets.
No, that's an awesome local marketing secret. I've heard very few people, if at all, talk about that. So that's awesome. So I think that was a great podcast. I'm so grateful to have you on for the second time, Andrew. I think this is a great second episode, and to learn all about SERP Summary. I've taken a look at it. I've used it a little bit myself, but it was really helpful to get an in-depth, really personal walkthrough of using the tool. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you all.
Of course. Yeah. 100%. And where can people find you and learn more about you and your services?
You can just go to localseoguide.com, and there's all sorts of marketing hype on there, and you can hit the contact form anytime you want. You can always find me on LinkedIn or Blue Sky. I'll be speaking at Local U Advanced, I think, on the 26th of March, I think. I'll also be speaking at Locology in Columbus, Ohio on the 23rd of March. I don't know why they're doing Ohio on the 23rd of March, but I'm doing it. I'll be speaking at Bright Local SEO for Good. I don't know when that is. And I think those are all the places you can find me these days.
That's awesome.
I'm actually working on a big study with SEMrush where we're taking their local map rank tracker tool and tracking like millions of results over time. And we're going to release some data hopefully soon about what we found, like how those local pack rankings change over time. Shocker, links seem to help. So anyhow, that's how you can find me.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, for anyone that's familiar with local SEO, Local U is huge. Bright Local is huge. SEMrush obviously is like one of the biggest SEO tools out there. So Andrew is obviously a huge deal. Again, so grateful to have you on the podcast. And again, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course.